Everybody, welcome to Marine Quest's professional development workshop during the All Blue Week. We're going to be focusing on teaching for a blue economy. And I'm going to get my slide here now. Here we go. So today, as we're teaching for a blue economy, we're going to be it's going to be an exploration of the blue economy for educators. And hopefully we are all educators that are joining us today. My name is Harris Molstein. I am the School Programs Coordinator with UNCW Marine Quest. I have both a master's in marine science from the University of Texas and a master's in education from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. I've been a high school formal educator, and now currently I am the School Programs Coordinator with Marine Quest. Before I was a teacher, my specialty in marine science was phytoplankton ecology with a focus on harmful algal blooms. And I have a wonderful team of educators joining us, beginning with Miss Morgan O'Connell. Why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, everyone. I'm Morgan O'Connell. I'm the Research and Volunteer Coordinator for Marine Quest. I have been with Marine Quest in a permanent capacity for just over 2 years. I love the Wilmington area. I did my undergraduate in marine biology here at UNCW, and I also got a Master in Teaching for secondary science from UNCW. After that, I got to go be an educator in the Florida Keys for 4 years, hanging out with 26 dolphins and 4 California sea lions. Happy to chat about them any day, except when we're talking about the blue economy. And I'm very lucky that the team we've assembled here at Marine Quest can talk about anything from the very small stuff in the ocean all the way up to the large stuff. So thanks for joining us.
All right, Mr. Hello. Pat, who are you?
Hello, everybody. I'm Mr. Pat. Patrick Kistler is my formal title, but I actually just joined Marine Quest team back in the spring. And I just graduated from Florida Institute of Technology with a bachelor's in ocean engineering, and I'm continuing with my master's at UNCW here in marine science. And I work to help incorporate engineering into youth programs here at Marine Quest. And so I'm excited to work with you all.
All right,
hi, everybody. I'm Erin Moran, and I'm going to help facilitate a little bit today in our breakout rooms. I worked for Marine Quest in a permanent position for about 5 years. It took a little time for family, and I'm hoping to get back into the swing of things and meet more wonderful teachers in the process.
All right, great. That is our team. You'll be hearing more from them as we go on. And before we start, we want to get a little bit of information from everybody out there. So Miss Morgan is going to put a quick poll for everybody to see. And we're asking, what subject area do you teach? And you can choose all that apply. If you cannot see a poll, sometimes we don't have the most up-to-date Zoom, and you can actually put that into the chat. So what subject area do you teach?
And Mr. M, I'm going to add on to that. If everyone will scroll down, there's also a place where you can let us know what grade level you're teaching. It lets us know a little bit about the room. What type of educators do we have joining us here today?
All right, cool. I think we're ready to end that poll. Thank you so much for that. All right. The last bit of logistics that we need to go over is yesterday, Ms. Morgan sent everybody an email with a file, a PDF that we're going to use today when we go into our breakout rooms. And I'll show you what that file is. And a little bit later on, Ms. Morgan's actually going to put that into the chat as well. But everybody should have received this file yesterday in your email from Ms. Morgan. And we are going to be using this for a breakout activity a little bit later on. We do not need a paper copy of it. You can just use the digital copy. And we'll provide you another link to that file a little bit later on. All right, wonderful. All right, so just to introduce who we are here at Marine Quest, MarineQuest's mission is to offer programming that provides young people with opportunities to explore, discover, and value our marine habitats, and most importantly, encourages them to develop into environmentally responsible adults. And we do that with our school programs that operate throughout the school year. Whether your students come to me, we go out to the students, you come out to the field with us, and we get hands-on doing relevant marine science activities. Our students during our summer camps, ages 4 to 17, get to do things that I can speak for Ms. Erin and myself in our master's in marine science programs. We didn't get to do till we were in graduate school. Some of our students are doing those things, especially our 17-year-olds that are working side by side with professors, collaborating with them as they engage in authentic marine science research. So we do some really incredible things here at MarineQuest. And one of the things that we hit on pretty heavily is all the sectors that interact with the blue economy, and that is going to be our focus for today. We are going to get interactive real quick, and we're curious where everybody is from. So where you're calling home right now. So in the chat, Ms. Morgan is putting a link to a Jamboard slide. And if we click on the link, and I'm going to click on that link and share what I have on my screen. So if we click on the link, everybody should see a slide like this. And what I'm going to do is I can duplicate the little icon on here, and I can actually put it where I am calling home right now. And if everybody does this, we can see this in real time. And we can even use a pen, and we can mark on the map where we are, like I'm doing right here. I see a lot of people in the middle of the ocean, so hopefully we can drag those icons. If the icon isn't working so well, you could just grab your pen and you can drop it and draw a little X. Oh, this is fun. This is like watching a little video game.
I love how we've got folks joining us from all over North Carolina, it looks like, not just coastal North Carolina. So thank you for connecting wherever you're at today. I personally grew up in Western North Carolina, so I love seeing somebody putting something over closer towards the mountains.
Well, I think dragging those icons was a little bit more difficult than we anticipated, but that's okay. I can see that a lot of us are joining us from North Carolina. We might even have somebody right now joining us from Florida. But for the most part, it seems like we have quite a few people that are coastal. They're living near the coast. And if I go back to my PowerPoint, we know that 126 million people, or 40% of the nation's total population, live on or near the coast. And the coast is considered anything from the beach all the way to 100 miles inland. And now I'm curious, why do you think so many people live by the coast? Is it just life's better at the beach and they really enjoy having the recreation out there? If you can, in the chat, why don't you give us some suggestions? Why are there so many people living at or near the coast? So many areas on the ocean as a food source, easy access to resources historically, absolutely. Sunbathing in the beach, I agree with you, that's why I live here. So transportation mainly via the water, especially back in the day, recreation, fish, and seafood, absolutely all wonderful answers. So Many of the world's largest cities are located on the coast, and throughout history, cities were built around ports because ports provided opportunities for trade, jobs, transportation, and people chose to move to coastal cities for these reasons. And two of the biggest cities in the United States are New York and Boston, and they developed around ports. And in fact, today we consider the area between Washington and DC and Boston to be a megalopolis, one huge city of all these kind of little communities that branched out from the main central hub because of their access to the port. But that's great. But what are those negatives of being coastal? What are some of the bad things of living on or near the coast? Hurricanes, absolutely. I think that's all etched into our brain. Before COVID, that's the only thing we thought of over here, the impacts of hurricanes. So yeah, absolutely flooding. Tourists, that's a good, yeah, absolutely. When I'm going to the beach with my 6-year-old, those tourists are a big pain in the butt, aren't they? So yes, traffic, absolutely. And now an hour to pay for parking for an hour at Wrightsville Beach, right where we are, is $5. My goodness. I don't think I'll be going to the beach much this summer. But anywho, so yeah, absolutely. We're dealing with hurricanes, storms, floods, the impacts of climate change and sea level rise, pollution getting into our oceans and into our water supply are all those negatives associated with living near the coast. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so today, our main objective is to understand a little bit of what it means when we consider something called the blue economy. And then we're going to introduce you to some lessons and resources that you can utilize right away to get your students kind of entrenched in understanding what the blue economy is and how important it is to their lives. And so before we get started, we just are curious, what does the blue economy mean to you? And once again, Ms. Morgan is going to put a Jamboard link into the chat, and hopefully this one works a little bit better. And I'm going to click on it and then share my screen.
While Mr. Ems is pulling up, if you're already in there, yeah, you can copy the sticky note that is there and then edit it. Or if you go all the way to the left side of your screen, you can see where Mr. M's over a sticky note function. You can choose your own, you can pick a color and just let us know, what does the blue economy mean to you right now with what you know today?
And don't worry, there's no wrong answers unless you're wrong. So just tell us all your ideas about what the blue economy means to you.
If you see your sticky note move around, I'm just moving them so we don't end up on top of each other. These are some great answers on our Jamboard so far. We really appreciate everything you guys are helping us out with and collaborating here. It's also a really fun tool we've learned about in Virtual Land to keep things interactive with our students.
All right, the answers are flowing in right now. Awesome. So I'll just read some of these. We have communities with wealth derived from the ocean, resources from our oceans, economy surrounding ocean resources, conservation, fisheries management, sustainability, the potential financial gain from water, like fishing, tourism, etc. Blue economy means, what does the ocean provide to us? Economic growth opportunity potential related to sustainable practices for human-ocean interaction. Whew, that's a good one. Making money by utilizing the ocean in an environmentally conscious way. How we use resources from the ocean to provide food. The vastness and importance of utilizing our ocean's resources safely and respectfully. So I like a lot of the ones that we put in here that are all about sustainability, and also how our economy is linked to that of the ocean and the marine environment. So resources, transportation, tourism, economic activity, keeping the ocean clean. I love all of these. All right, so I'm going to go back. So I have a nice little figure here all about what the blue economy is. And we're going to see a lot of the things that you have already highlighted. The blue economy is the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improve livelihoods and jobs, and ocean ecosystem health. And it encompasses many activities. Well, marine transport, for one, over 80% of international goods are transported by the ocean, and it's only growing. We can all think about what's happening outside of California right now at those ports, the backlog of all those goods that are stuck waiting to offload. We have waste management. 80% of the litter that ends up in the ocean came from land, and that's going to impact the sustainability of things like our fisheries, where the U.S. Contributes about $270 billion to our GDP from our fisheries alone. Renewable energy that we can get from the ocean, whether it's waves, wind, currents, to generate different types of power, and depending on where you live, not all places can use every single type of renewable energy from the ocean. Tourism is a big one, and all the revenue that generates. And climate change is a big one for how that's impacting every single one of these aspects of the blue economy. What's kind of cool about the blue economy is that not all sites are made equal. Depending on where you live, your blue economy can look completely different from a different location. And that has to do with how people are harvesting and trading marine living resources, how they're extracting and using different non-living resources, like in ocean mining and things like that. Like I mentioned before, the types of renewable blue energy we can use, the type of commerce and trade in and around the ocean. Here in Wilmington, North Carolina, we have a really huge and financially lucrative port, but it's a fraction of the business that is done at other ports around the country. And also those activities that indirectly contribute to the economy, including coastal protection and resiliency, disposing of our waste, maintaining our biodiversity, how traditional cultures are utilizing the traditional culture use and of our coastal resources, our military, and of course, our quality of life. Now, annually, in terms of economic viability, coastal counties produce more than 8.3 trillion in goods and services and employ 55.8 million people, paying 3.4 trillion in wages. So think about how much money is generated by these blue economies nationally. Well, here at MarineQuest, we've identified the 11 main sectors of the blue economy. Now, this is by no means an all-encompassing list, and each one of these sectors has many subsectors as well. And each sector is not a silo. They actually can stretch along other sectors. So one sector can actually be incorporated into others, but there's 11 main sectors that we have identified here. And those include recreation and tourism, ocean exploration, shipping and ports, alternative blue energy, ocean monitoring, fisheries and aquaculture, blue security and data science. Let me move some, excuse me, I have some windows in the way here. Coastal engineering, coastal resiliency, ocean mining, marine biotechnology, and pharmaceuticals. Now, like I said, these aren't silos. They stretch across several different ones, and I'll give you for instance. So recreation and tourism, which is huge for our blue economy. Well, if we don't have beaches, we're not having tourists coming to our beaches. So that also interacts with ocean monitoring, looking at waves and weather and hurricanes and how they're impacting erosion, which connects to coastal engineering, the hard and soft structures we're putting out on our beaches to minimize erosion, and maybe some of the beach renourishment that happens. And this is all tied to coastal resiliency. If our beaches can't bounce back after these really traumatic and impactful events such as hurricanes, then we will not have a blue economy when it comes to our recreation and tourism moving forward. Well, I'm going to try to shut up here, and we are going to actually allow you guys to interact with us as we do an activity for us to really explore and understand what the blue economy is. And we thought the best way to do this is by you doing one of our favorite activities to introduce the blue economy to our students. So you're going to get to do exactly what some of our students get to do when we teach them about the blue economy. So how this is going to work is we are going to build a blue economy. And we're going to break into teams to build our blue economy. So I mentioned earlier that we provided a PDF file to you yesterday. And Morgan just went ahead and into the chat, she included inputted a link to this handout in case you don't have it at your ready. We are going to use that file to help us understand the blue economy. In your team, you're going to choose to build the economy of a place that you live. So as a group, you'll decide, should we just pick one of the places that one of us live? Maybe the nearest coastal community to all of us, or if you want to go crazy, you can pick anywhere in the world to build a blue economy for. For each sector, you're going to think of and identify any business, industries, or other organizations that are operating in these different sectors. And then you're going to jot down their names and a brief description. So we're going to see if we can just, based on what we know, if we can just write what business belongs to that sector, or we can just do a simple Google search to find some of those businesses or industries. And finally, the breakout room leader will input your ideas into a single document that when we come back into the main room, we're going to share out with the rest of the group at the end of the exercise. So you are going to be put to work, and we are going to collectively build a blue economy as we discover some of the amazing aspects of each sector. So Ms. Morgan, why don't you explain how we're going to break out here?
So we are going to be in 2 breakout rooms tonight. In just a moment, you'll see an invitation to your breakout room. And there you will meet with some of the Marine Quest staff to help guide you through the activity. If you are brave enough to turn on your camera or mic, we love for you to do that, especially in the breakout room. That's not possible for you if you are still maybe in transition from where you work to home. Feel free to use the chat, but we look forward to all the engagement in our breakout room starting in just a moment.
I don't know how the other breakout room went, but we were able to actually identify something from each sector of the blue economy. And we're going to present out on our blue economy first, and then we'll go with Mr. Pat's group second. I think my group was a little tired. No one wanted to step up and present out, so I'm going to go do that. Boring, but that's fine. All right, so let me pull up the blue economy that we created. So we had some people that were from out of town, and for others that are excited about teaching about the blue economy here in Wilmington. So we went with the blue economy in Wilmington, North Carolina, and we found a lot of different things. And it was really exciting as we were identifying different things that aligned with these sectors. There was a lot for coastal engineering. We found 3 different companies, including Coastal Land Design PLLC, which is an architectural building. They do architectural building on coastlines, which is super cool. We had some fun analyzing the blue security and data science. We found that UNCW is offering courses, and we assume it is used at our ports. And we did find some listings for positions for people to take on some of these roles. And we're just hoping that our blue security is tight at our ports, because we don't want any hacking going on. For ocean mining, we did find some articles and just from people's knowledge that there is a push towards offshore oil drilling in the Southeast Atlantic. So that's definitely something that's on the table. We didn't necessarily find a specific business or industry to highlight. For marine biotechnology and pharma, we found a company called Alchemy, which one of the things of the many things they do is they develop new pharmaceuticals. For recreation and tourism, we had a former staff member of Wrightsville Beach Surf Camp, so they did a shout out to their company. I would say that Marine Quest is also a wonderful example of some recreation and tourism. Ocean monitoring, we found ferry box systems, which is actually an onboard system for analyzing ocean data that you can have on your ship. So as ships are going out, they can be collecting long-term data, which is super cool. For alternative blue energy, we found a large potential for offshore wind energy, also known as WEA, here in North Carolina, right off our coast, not necessarily being utilized just yet, but the potential is there. Also, solar energy is big here in Wilmington. Shipping and ports, we have a major port close to the I-85 corridor on the Cape Fear River. We all know that port. Coastal resiliency, we found a company called Our Team, and they do work trying to get rid of plastics. So keeping our beaches and our oceans resilient because of trying to pick up marine debris. For fisheries and aquaculture, we found a shellfish hatchery called Middle Sound Oyster Company that farms oysters, which is super cool. I got a thumbs up from Aaron out there. And then, yes, Aaron.
So that company is run and operated by a UNCW marine science graduate student that now does his own oyster sales and growth.
Cool. And finally, for ocean exploration, someone did a shout out for Marine Quest in our group, and we definitely do ocean exploration, but also there's NOAA expeditions and the different technologies they use. And we also said that our team, which is working to get rid of plastics, is also one that kind of goes as is an example of one that's not a silo. It's in both ocean exploration and coastal resiliency. So in just a few minutes, we have been able to get a really much better understanding of some of the blue economy potential here in Wilmington, North Carolina. My team, everybody can give yourself a pat on the back because you did a wonderful job there. And speaking of Pat, why don't you talk about your group or whoever in your group wants to share out?
Yeah, so luckily our group was very, very active. And you know what, guys, give yourselves a pat on the back for that, because you know that can be tough sometimes with being on Zoom and whatnot. But yeah, our group was very active, and I'm gonna pull up our chart that we decided. So here's our blue economy. We also did our local area because it was, you know, a little easier for us all to get on the same page and, you know, address what was going on. Do we have someone from our group that wants to kind of talk about the topics that we discussed for each of them? Speak up now, or? All right, but I can go through it. And so as you can see, we have a lot of examples for coastal engineering. We did talk about the degree that UNCW offers. We talked about designing waterways and maintaining them. And we kind of tied that into how that's essential when protecting our shipping ports. And then that kind of got us into the talk of the Port of Wilmington and how much of an impact it has on our local imports and outports. We also talked about property protection and the process of erosion and basically trying to slow it as much as we could. We talked about beach renourishment. And then we kind of dove into our, you know, recreation and tourism. We had a lot of examples for that. And as we know, you know, Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach area, Carolina Beach, this is a big area for, you know, water activities and, you know, activities in a coastal community. We have diving, boating. We talked about the beach patrol, how it provides also another form of employment. Fishing is a major industry here. The heritage tourism, which I was not aware of. An example of that was the Pirates tour. And Dr. K, if you wanted to talk about that a little bit more. I'm sure not all of us are aware of those.
Yeah, it's actually, I think for a while, heritage tourism brought in more money than ecotourism. But if you think about the battleship and how that ties into dredging and having a port, but heritage tourism, you know, the old rice plantations, the Gullah Geechee community, the big mystery of did people from Spain come here before everybody else. So people spend a lot of money in our area coming to do the history, which is very coastal based.
And another one that we touched on too, and you guys were, definitely pointing it out when you said, the traffic living in a coastal community is when we get these big athletic events, the triathlons, the biathlons, there's surf contests in our local area. There's a lot going on with these athletic events, and they tend to bring in a lot of people too, and a lot of revenue. And that also tied into the food revenue too. The restaurants in our coastal community, the foods that are available here that may not be available elsewhere. And so we had a lot of examples for that. We talked about coastal resiliency, and it kind of tied into the points that we touched on with coastal engineering about renourishment, monitoring water quality, contamination of certain water sources. So contamination of the river, the estuarine systems, and the local coastal waters too. We also mentioned FEMA, hurricane relief, because hurricanes are a big concern in our area. We touched on flooding, and then we talked about a specific example being oyster recycling too. That's big in our area for coastal resiliency and the development of these artificial oyster reefs. We didn't touch on any specific examples for blue security and data science, but we did have a ton to say about ocean monitoring. We of course mentioned UNCW. We talked about EPA. We talked about NOAA, of course. Even weather forecasting is a biggie. A lot of weather data is taken continuously all the time. We talked about NCDEQ, which what was the acronym stand for? If the person in our group still remembers.
North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality.
All right, so yeah, that would be a massive tie into ocean monitoring, as we're constantly trying to make sure that we're not impacting our coastal waters in a negative way. And we also mentioned NASA and their form of ocean monitoring, and the help that they provide through satellites as well. We dove into, when we were talking about fisheries and aquaculture, that's a biggie here with fish farms. We talked about trout and black drum spawning. And now, while this example might be a little more geared towards Morehead City, it's still relevant in our area because we have a lot of those species here as well. And, replenishing fish populations and raising fish for eating purposes, is a big tie-in for fisheries and aquaculture. And then we talked about our local example being the Shellfish Hatchery for scallops and oysters. We did talk about the proposed mining project when it comes to ocean mining, and how it was brought up, it was declined. But yeah, ocean mining is always going to be relevant whether we like it or not. But there's ways to do it effectively, and that is part of our blue economy. We talked about the potential for alternative wind energy in our area, and I think there is talk of, or news of, getting the ball rolling with the wind energy projects, but it does take a while because they need to be analyzed to see what impact they're going to have on wherever they're being deployed.
Pat, I put something in the chat because they just announced today they're going to start the bid process for selling leases directly off Wilmington's coast. So the federal government announced that today.
Oh, so ground for creating
for wind, for
farms?
offshore wind.
Okay.
We'll see.
Well, fingers crossed. We didn't dive into the specifics of ocean exploration, no pun intended. But obviously ocean exploration, has a big impact in our local area. And you can see that even here at UNCW and the Center for Marine Science, but you can also tie that into, big organizations like NOAA. Building off of that, marine biotechnology and pharma, we kind of didn't tie into that because that I feel like is directly with ocean exploration, but all the research that we conduct, kind of taking that and using these methods that we see occurring naturally in our oceans and waterways, and kind of applying that to improve our everyday life. And shipping and ports, as we mentioned, was a big focus in Wilmington, being Port of Wilmington, anywhere from the actual people running the port, the crane operators, they get in this crazy glass box and they have to know where the arms are that they're grabbing these massive shipping containers off the ships. And it's actually insane to see that. If you guys can look up a video example of that, of them in these little glass bubbles on the cranes, it's crazy. And then we also touched on I guess I meant to say NC. Oh, sorry about that. That's it's my inner New Jersey going in there. But we talked about the North Carolina Department of Transportation being a big impact with our blue economy too, because what is ultimately going to affect the speed at which we can import and export these goods is going to rely heavily on our truck drivers. And there's been a crisis with there not being a whole lot of truck drivers, or not as many as there should be. And so I think we really got a well-rounded view of our blue economy here. So good job, guys.
Well, awesome. I think it's really great to see the diversity between, even though we focus on the same area, we identified different examples of these blue economy sectors in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I think you're going to find wonderful things if you did this same exact activity with your students. And you can choose to have them do it as an individual exercise, or you can have them work in groups to build them together like we did. Obviously, you can probably give them a lot more time than we gave ourselves today to make it a little bit more in depth. But what I like to do after we admire the blue economies that we create is for the students to kind of reflect on what careers for the different sectors really appealed to them, because they're going to be discovering things that they never knew about before. So what are the ones that really appeal to them, and have them talk about those specific sectors. And then for fun, they can try to come up with an idea to build their own blue economy initiative based on one of the careers and sectors that interest them. So they can be little entrepreneurs and come up with their new blue economy initiative, whether it's for one specific sector or multiple ones, which could be a really fun activity to build off of this initial one. So lots of different avenues for you to explore with your students, just based on this really quick, nice and simple introductory activity. And I'm sure even for us that were really familiar with the Wilmington area, your eyes were open to how many connections we can make to the blue economy. We have a little bit of time here. So I see there's a little bit of a conversation about some desalination initiatives happening. So if you kind of check in the chat of what's going on, and a startup here, it just disappeared. But Aaron, were you talking about Saros and their desalination buoys?
So Saros used to be in Wilmington. They did fold, but that was a desalination technology group that was trying to develop a cheap, low-cost desalination technology, specifically for more isolated communities, not so much for like the size of California, some of the cities that California has. But yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a lot about desal in the next couple of years. Super cool.
All right, thank you. Well, before we provide you guys with some resources you can use right away to start doing some blue economy activities with your students, we thought we might highlight some of the blue economy here at UNCW. And now we do much more than just what we have here, but these were some of our favorite ones to highlight really quickly. So in terms of marine biotechnology and pharmaceuticals, here at UNCW, we have a facility I can see actually through my window right over here called Mar Bionic, which is marine biotechnology in North Carolina. So they are a research and development based economic and workforce development program based at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, that discovers, develops, and markets new products and technologies derived from the sea, which is super cool because we can share an article that highlights one of the huge discoveries here at UNCW. You can see here an article about how the Florida red tide, which is currently happening right now, causing fish kills and people to get sick. Researchers here at UNCW discovered that the organism responsible for Florida red tides produces an antidote to the own symptoms it causes. And there is now a new drug that's in development that's actually being used to treat cystic fibrosis. This was discovered here at UNCW, some random critter from the ocean that is now being used as a source for a new treatment and pharmaceutical to treat cystic fibrosis, which is really, really amazing and part of the awesome things that are happening at Marbionic. Another one is CORMP, is the Coastal Ocean Research and Monitoring Program here at UNCW. And I actually have that window already pulled up, I think. And so here we have CORMP's website. And it's just cormp.org. It's really easy to get to. And CORMP is responsible, and what they do is they have all of these different types of monitoring buoys. You can see here is a picture of where all their buoys are when Hurricane Isai came and caused some trouble. So they were collecting data during that hurricane. And you can see what some of these buoys look like. Some of them have different types of sensors on them for different water quality and weather data. Some of them are wave buoys for studying long-term wave data. And you can see some of these buoys. But my favorite thing as an educator is allowing my students to explore the data. So I can actually go to my data tab over here, and I can actually build a long-term data set from data that it's actually collected. So if I just want to go in here and I can change the date, let's go to August 1st through now. I'm going to apply that. And I'm going to pick one of these buoys. And let's take a look at one of the Wilmington temperature. So let's take a look at water temperature over here. So I'm going to select water temperature, and it's going to generate a graph for us. And I imagine that since I'm doing this on the fly right now, it's going to, oh, there it is. It actually populated, and you can actually see a long-term data set from our ocean monitoring buoys out there. And we can see we had nice warm temperature throughout August, and then we had a little bit of a cold streak in September. We rebounded a little bit, and now that water is dropping. And you can also change the axes over here, so it doesn't have to be in degrees Fahrenheit. You can have it in Celsius as well. But this is super cool. There's so much data for your students to explore. It's endless, the possibilities that you can have working with your students by looking at these data sets. We also have our ROV program, our undersea vehicles program for ocean exploration. So let's see if I can get that one to work. So I'm going to open this link. Here we go. And so we have our undersea vehicles program here at Wilmington. And we have this really amazing remotely operated vehicle, as well as a number of other different vehicles they use for ocean exploration. For just looking and charting the unknown and collecting new samples that could be possibly used for developing new pharmaceuticals. And let's see how this video actually plays over here. I'm going to mute it. This is a time-lapse video of them operating out in the Gulf of Mexico, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So you can tell it's Texas because of all the oil rigs and activity near the coast over here. I know it's really, really jumpy, and I apologize for that. This is them actually lowering the ROV down into the water, them observing all the data that's being collected and where it is and how they're collecting specimens. And this is my favorite part. The manipulator arm actually collecting different specimens out from the ocean and putting it into a little container for retrieving and bringing it back up to the ship. Super cool. All right. And we also have our Shellfish Hatchery here at UNCW, which we did highlight some of us in our exploration of our blue economy. So we have a Shellfish Hatchery located right where we're streaming from. The mission of the Shellfish Research Hatchery is to conduct and facilitate research that will inform and contribute to North Carolina's growing shellfish aquaculture industry through research, education, and industry development. And you can see some of our students here interacting with the staff at the Shellfish Hatchery, learning how their operations work. And super cool what they have going on. And we thought it would be nice to actually hear from the director of the Shellfish Hatchery. We have a quick video that Miss Morgan is going to share with you. So I'm going to give privileges back over to Miss Morgan here.
Yeah, so the director of the Shellfish Research Hatchery filmed a full interview for us. We're not going to watch the entire thing tonight, but we want to highlight just a little bit of it, and we'll share the full experience with you after the program. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Wilbur.
Good afternoon and welcome to UNCW's All Blue Week. My name is Amy Wilbur and I'm the director of the Shellfish Research Hatchery at UNCW. Today I've been asked to tell you a little bit about myself, about our program, and to talk a little bit about some of the work we have been doing with bay scallops.
So Dr. Wilbur goes a little bit into her education history, which will be great to share with your students. But we want you to hear firsthand from her tonight a little bit about the Shellfish Research Hatchery's mission.
Shellfish Research Hatchery since 2011. The hatchery's mission is to conduct research that will both contribute and inform to North Carolina's efforts to restore its declining populations of ecologically and commercial shellfish, and to foster the development of a sustainable aquaculture industry. Currently, our program borrows heavily from terrestrial agricultural strategies and techniques to try to increase the productivity of our aquaculture industry. We currently are selectively breeding oysters for fast growth. We are looking at other species of shellfish to provide the farmers with a diverse line of products that will contribute to our seafood supply. And we're also investigating some of the problems that stem from pathogens and parasites that threaten both our cultured shellfish species populations as well as our wild populations. I see our mission as directly supporting the blue economy in that the research that we do contributes to healthier wild populations and the development of a sustainable and successful shellfish aquaculture industry.
Dr. Wilbur also had a message directly to our educators tonight, so I want to make sure and share that with you.
Thank you for listening to me. I hope you're able to share the idea of the blue economy with your students, and thank you for all that you do for those students. Good afternoon.
So like we said, we'll make sure and share the full video, and you can absolutely share that with your students, any parts that you feel are relevant and will help support teaching the blue economy in your own classroom. One of the other things we wanted to just take a brief moment to highlight is a project that Marine Quest has actually undertaken related to coastal resiliency. And this is a project that you can get involved with personally, or your students could get involved with. This is called Storm Surge Protectors. It is run by an AmeriCorps service member, so it's got great connections to the community. And what Storm Surge Protectors do is they help us monitor the wetlands, which gives us a great indication of our coastal health as well as resiliency. This is the homepage for Storm Surge Protectors. You can learn a little bit more about the project. It is not just here right beside UNCW. We have 3 current sites that are being monitored, 1 in Wrightsville Beach, 2 at the Fort Fisher Recreation Area, and 1 a little further down at Carolina Beach State Park. Anyone can help with this project after they go through training. We do offer training about once a month, and that training is led by our AmeriCorps service member, Miss Riley Lewis this year. This is also a wonderful initiative. If you've never heard of AmeriCorps, I highly encourage you to take a look at it. If you look at the events page or follow Storm Surge Protectors on social media, you can get more information about the next training, and that will occur on November 20th.
Thank you, Morgan. All right, and so we are going to finish up here today with some resources about lessons and activities that you can just start using in your classroom. So what we did was we scoured the internet for as many different lessons and activities as we can find that related to the different sectors of the blue economy. And we collected it into a comprehensive list that's broken down by sector, what activity, what the description of the activity, what grade level it's for, and a link to access those materials. And Morgan is actually going to pull that up right now. And this is something that's going to be shared with you at the conclusion of the program. Morgan, you're on mute.
Thank you. We did go around and find some existing curriculum that has strong ties to the blue economy. This is not a comprehensive list, but these are items and lessons we thought would be valuable to get you started on your journey with the blue economy. The very first column will tell you what sector is the lesson connected to. You can see the lesson title. So I'm just going to use this first line as an example. Ocean exploration, a lesson called Dancing with Robots. That always sounds like something fun to do, especially if you're into music. A short synopsis of what does the lesson entail. So this lesson allows students to describe the motion of an object in terms of position, direction, and speed, compare and contrast 6 types of movements, and design a thruster system that could provide a remotely operated vehicle with forward, reverse, lateral, vertical, and rotational movement. The recommended grade level for it, and then a hyperlink. Switch the screen to the existing lesson plan. Obviously, the lesson plans have a lot more detail than what you'll find in our spreadsheet. This is a great one for 5th and 6th graders, and it gives you everything you'll need as far as what type of seating arrangement and how much time it will take to teach it. There are lots of science lessons on that document, but we also want to point out that the blue economy is not important just for science alone. So I want to highlight one more lesson for you. If you scroll down, you'll see ocean observing and monitoring, fisheries and aquaculture, resiliency, biotech and pharma. And this is the one that I'm going to take a second to tell you a little bit more about. The lesson is called Bioprospecting, exploring the tension between traditional knowledge and Western science. It's great for high school students with really strong connections to social studies, as well as really important conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a lesson that was developed by a Keenan Fellow at Chapel Hill. So let's get the lesson pulled up for you to take a peek at. With these resources, we tried to send you to the homepage when possible so you could get more background directly from the source that created it. But if it was difficult to find the lesson plan, the link will take you directly to the lesson plan. So this is the entire information page about bioprospecting. And I've gone ahead and pulled up just the lesson plan. During this, students have a chance to explore the issues around bioprospecting, looking at several different roles. So there are roles of a pharmaceutical representative or an elder with traditional knowledge. And this is exactly something that came up in our breakout room earlier today, looking at how we can ensure the blue economy benefits everyone. It isn't just a new form of imperialism. So we wanted to make sure you knew there are ways you can do lots of cross-curriculum connections using this topic. Finally, a lesson that is included is a wave energy engineer. Students have a chance to create this device here, which monitors energy within a wave. And we want to highlight that because over the years, Marine Quest has taken a chance to add our own spin to this lesson and take it just a little bit further. So I believe Mr. M and Mr. Pat are going to show you what that can look like here in just a moment.
All right, so that leads us to our upcoming in-person professional development that we are going to do on the blue economy. So we had asked you during registration about some of your kind of what your thoughts are for when we would have an in-person professional development. And you shall stay tuned for when we actually post when that's going to happen. And we sincerely hope that some of you will be able to join us, because we are going to get hands-on together to explore some of the ways that MarineQuest does hands-on activities with our students. And like Ms. Morgan mentioned, one of those is creating a energy generating device using waves. And I'm going to stop my share here. I'm even going to change over to a different computer, and we'll get to see Mr. Pat getting hands-on with one of the types of activities we may try to do with you guys if you join us in person. One of many things we will do together. So give me 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. Rhode Island is neither a road nor an island. Discuss. I'll be right back.
So
And
Mr.
Morgan, can you also mention about the newsletter if they didn't already get it?
Absolutely. MarineQuest does have a newsletter that is sent out at least probably 4 times a year. We're working on getting it more frequent. This newsletter will tell you about upcoming events MarineQuest has, different programs we offer. We offer professional developments for teachers. We offer school programs where you can have a virtual visit with Mr. M and our team, or come in person or to the field. Mr. M can even come to schools that are close by. One of our favorite things about this newsletter is we focus on different topics for each newsletter and provide resources of lessons you can do in your classroom, books and literacy items that are connected to that topic, and just really helping us all stay together as a community. If you are not already on that, you can put a chat message to me and I will be happy to make sure you get added to our newsletter, or you can respond to those registration emails you got and we will add you that way. Thanks, Dr. K. The other thing I was going to say, as Harris and Pat are setting up, they are broadcasting from the MarineQuest lab today. It is one of the largest spaces at the Center for Marine Science. We are so thankful the university recognizes the importance of education, and you're going to have a chance to see a peek of a very small window within our lab, but you will have a chance to see a much bigger picture of the lab if you join us for our in-person professional development, which we will have that date announced very, very soon. We greatly appreciate everyone who answered the survey question of if you're interested in attending and when would be best. If you weren't sure earlier and now you know you want to come meet us in person, please respond to those same emails and we'll make sure you get that information as soon as it's ready.
So Morgan, we're ready to go over here, but it seems the host has disabled my video. So if you can...
Gotcha. I hit start video. Let's see.
Alrighty. And if you can spotlight me, please.
Already on it.
All right. So we can see our awesome wave tank that we have here for studying coastal processes, especially those related to erosion. And we love building structures with our students so that we can simulate some of the ways that coastal engineers make our coastlines more resilient. So I have Mr. Pat, why don't you give us some wave action?
Sure thing.
So Mr. Pat over here is going to start our wave tank. Look at that go. So we can see how waves are impacting our coastline, and we can watch as our sediments and our sand erode. We like putting structures up there to kind of simulate what our houses are doing during a hurricane. But what we have over here is that Mr. Pat got out one of our student created ocean energy harnessing devices from Blue Energy here. And if you can see on our voltmeter that as our little bobber goes up and down in the waves, it's pulling up on a magnet that's going through a copper coil. So the action of the waves bringing it up and down is generating a current that we can then harness. So this is just one of the cool ways that our students get to engineer these devices. And we allow them to troubleshoot it. We don't give them all of the information. We see which designs work best. They experiment with different types of coils. How tightly coiled they are. They got to get their rope just right so their magnet fully goes up and down through that coil, which is super cool. And you don't need a fancy wave tank like we have. You can do this in a like a closed storage plastic bin that you can just put your wave generating device into and just make waves and see if you can generate some electricity. And this is a super fun activity to do with lots of different age ranges, and just one of many fun things we will do together when you join us for our in-person professional development. So you stay tuned.
Awesome. Thanks, Harris. Thanks, Pat. We are coming kind of to the close of tonight's time together. We appreciate everyone being here. If you have any questions you'd like us to answer, feel free to come off chat or put it in the chat or come off mute. The only thing we ask you do before you leave today is take a minute to answer one last poll for us. As educators ourselves, we always like to get a little bit of feedback over how things have gone. So we do have a poll question related to that. We'll also be sending a follow-up survey to you, as well as a certificate of attendance for everyone who joined us live tonight. You will get the list of resources for those lessons, along with the hyperlinks, the full lesson for the Exploring the Blue Economy activity we trialed together, and the video from Dr. Wilbur. So thank you again for being here with us this evening. The poll should be launching on your screen right now. Pat, Harris, Aaron, Dr. K, anything else before folks head off into their evening?
I think
I wanted to add, and I put it real quick in the text box, there's a lot of definitions for the blue economy, but the one that is emerging globally includes the statement that it has to not only be a sustainable use of the ocean, but it has to be equitably distributed. This economy should be the ocean. There's one ocean. It belongs to everyone on the planet, and therefore the benefits of this economy must be shared equitably. And that's the time that we're living in now. So the that article, that one lesson that Morgan mentioned on the biopiracy and the bioprospecting is a really great one to get your kids thinking about this global community that we're part of and equity.
Thank you, Dr. K. And thank you everybody for joining us. And I believe Morgan was talking about it while I was transitioning over to the wave tank. I run school programs all school year long. You want me to come out to your school? I'll bring my critters, I'll bring my devices. We'll do all sorts of fun activities and get hands-on with some really cool equipment and technology. We're also starting to be able to host groups at our site, and we can always meet you out in the field. We are very excited to collaborate with you all in the future and spread the good word about MarineQuest. We will stay on here for a couple more minutes if you have any specific questions for us. Other than that, you had a long day. Go rest. We'll see you at our in-person professional development workshop. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for all you do.
No homework.